This is DDL 147.
I hear bodies.
This takes me back to the good old days of podcasting, where we start recording, and then we realise we hadn't pressed the record button, and then we try again, and somebody's computer dies, and so we're back.
Second time tonight.
Second time tonight. We got about 10 minutes into a recording, and yeah, the connection between us failed, so we're trying again a little later in the evening when the internet's not being so heavily pounded.
Phrasing.
You've been watching Archer.
I have.
The frustrating thing is, Lance and I have both recently been to see the new Star Wars film, The Last Jedi, and I have been biting my tongue and not saying anything to anyone about the film, because I thought, right, first time I talk about this, I want it to be on recording, make it into a podcast, great. And now we've had a 10-minute conversation about it. It's like, so when we're talking now, it's gonna be like, did we talk about this before? Have we already covered this?
So I suppose we ought to start with a spoiler warning.
Yes.
This contains spoilers. There will be spoilers. From this point on, you will hear nothing but spoilers.
Yes.
Think that's enough of a warning that this is a spoiler cast.
And when we post it, I intend to put spoiler all over the place, because there's nothing worse than starting to listen to something and they say, oh, did you know that Darth Vader is Luke's dad? No! Oh, no, they spoiled the whole thing now. So yes, we're pulling no punches. Well, yeah, pulling no punches. We'll be talking in depth, and could possibly be quite a long recording.
It could well be.
Holds out.
There's no point trying to recreate what we've already recorded. So I really liked The Last Jedi, and Darren
really didn't. At the moment, having seen it just the once and not really spoken to anyone about it, so not had anyone to counter my growing list of things that I didn't like about it. It might be one that grows on me. At the moment, I think
I hope it
the
does.
worst of the 8 films.
Oh, I just don't see how you can think that. It's not the best, I'll give you. It's not the best out of the 8, but it's easily not the worst.
In your opinion, then, what's the worst?
It's one of the prequel trilogies, definitely.
Yeah, I would say Phantom Menace draws on a fair bit, and there's a lot of scenes in there that could have been a third of the length that they were. The whole pod race thing just took forever.
There's a lot of unnecessary stuff in Phantom Menace, but yeah, and the virgin birth and all of that crap. Yes. It just was very slow, and it just wasn't a Star Wars film to me, which I honestly feel that The Last Jedi is. It's exactly what a Star Wars film should be.
See, the Force Awakens wasn't fantastic. I would say Force Awakens was mildly better than the Phantom Menace, but this just isn't.
Right. Okay. Let's get into specifics. Come on. What don't you like?
Right. Well, from the beginning, a long time ago in a galaxy far, no. We all know how a Star Wars film starts. It starts with a spaceship going across the starscape, and you pan down to a planet. A lot of times there's some sort of battle going on or something, and it's the iconic opening. It's the build up to the start to a film, and
yeah,
they started this one with Poe Dameron nose to nose with General Hux's Star Destroyer, and they have this whole stupid conversation where clearly what they've done, it's one of the classics, that the bad guy standing on the bridge of his ship telling the good guy how it's impossible, you should give up, blah 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 blah, and it's a is it a trope, do they call it, where
Yep.
every bad guy does it. They stand in the position of power looking down at the little guy, and then they give this huge long speech, and of course ultimately they're proven wrong. But then Poe says, yep, nope, can't hear you, hello, are you there?
Yeah, no.
And diffuses
No, sorry.
Exactly.
Lost
They,
you.
they diffuse the entire crescendo, the build up to the start, with humour, and they introduced humour far too early.
I totally agree. Totally agree. I have to say, I don't like Poe Dameron as a character. When he was first introduced in The Force Awakens, the first real thing that he does when he's on his knees in front of Kylo Ren is what? So, do you talk first? Do I talk first? Who's going first?
Yeah. Again, it breaks the whole idea of Kylo Ren being any kind of a bad guy. Because if some nibbling little rebel pilot was like that to me, I'll shoot this mouthy little.
Yeah. I'll give you that one. I will give you that one. I don't like him as a character. I think they're trying to make him to be the new cocky, arrogant, space piratey Han Solo type character, but they're going way over the top on it.
Far too comical.
Yes.
He's no, just don't like him. And General Hux, don't get on with him either.
I like General Hux. He's absolutely insane and fanatical and tyrannical, and I like him.
I don't see why Snoke has got Kylo Ren and Hux. Why not just give Kylo Ren command of the fleets, or even look after the fleets himself? The people that report to Hux tend to be very snap their heels together, do as they're told. Really smart guys.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who was in charge of what's the, I can't think of the huge destroyer thing that turned up, the dreadnought.
The dreadnought, yeah.
He was like, can we just shoot this guy? Can we just do that? And he was being told by Hux, no, wait, it's like, but, and he was a tactician and he knew what to do, but he had to sit there on his hands while this one starfighter flew all over his ship, destroying the gun turrets, with his hands tied, because Hux
wouldn't let him.
Hux wouldn't let him do anything about it. Why Hux?
I'm guessing that was written to show his arrogance and disdain for them and all of that they can have their little pot shots and then we'll just wipe them out.
But how then is this guy in power if his arrogance is such that it lets him lose a dreadnought and let him lose the last Death Star? I mean, the Starkiller base.
Is that intentional slip or?
I don't know. What do you mean? They're two totally different things.
Yeah.
I could do another podcast. What was wrong with The Force Awakens? But
Force Awakens. I like The Force Awakens, but it was basically just a remake of Star Wars.
A remake of Star Wars.
That's the review in a very short, concise conversation. It was literally a 21st century remake of a 1977 film.
Yep. But no, I don't like Hux. I don't like Poe Dameron. What was your first laugh of the film?
Probably that conversation.
Nope.
Yeah, straight away it was funny. I found it funny. I laughed, but like you say, it did kind of destroy the tension.
Before that conversation, I had a big belly laugh, which I thought was appropriate. The fact that Adrian Edmondson was on the bridge.
Was he? I never spotted that.
He was like the main character that was with Hux.
Wow. I'm gonna have to go and rewatch it now.
It was like it was the pan to the first to the bridge, and there was Hux, and there was Adrian Edmondson. And so when he says, "Can you hear me?" It's like Adrian Edmondson says, "Yeah, I think he's having you on, sir."
And that's Adrian Edmondson. Oh my god! I hadn't spotted that.
Yeah, so yeah, that made me smile, and I thought, oh, nice cameo role, brilliant. And then it was like, no, this is useless. I'm just trying to sort the long list of issues that I got with this into some sort of an order.
You have a list.
Yeah, I'm checking it twice. The what was I got there? So, yeah. How did the First Order possibly track us through light speed? What about that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were completely dumbfounded that how on earth did the First Order track us through light speed, despite the fact that a little bit later on, when Finn goes down and he's trying to escape the ship, he talks to Rose, and Rose seems to know all about the technology, and so does Finn.
So yeah, why didn't the
So why didn't the generals and the upper
tacticians figure it out, and some
why didn't
mechanic
they
and an
know anything about
ex-stormtrooper
it?
could do? Yeah.
Absolutely. It then turns out that the technology that's needed to do this is quite a massive room full of technology, which has got some sort of an homage to the flux capacitor in the middle of it with all the sparks and so forth.
Yeah.
It takes that to be able to track them across light speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you happen to have a little tiny bracelet like Leia and Finn have got, because that also seems to be able to track them across light speed.
Yeah, you put a lot more thought into this than I have.
Well, I was thinking, okay, so how are they tracking them across light speed? Is it because somebody who gave them the bracelets is actually working for the First Order? Oh, yeah. No, it's just some mumbo jumbo, massive, great big machine that only tracks the first machine. How do they know it? No, it only tracks the first
ship. Yeah, I did think that.
I would have thought that a big fleet going through any kind of transdimensional warp would be a big enough signal.
It's going to leave
track.
some sort of trace. Yeah.
Yeah, and perhaps here's just a thought: if they were worried about the ongoing life of the rebellion, then don't all transport again as a single group to another location. If they'd have gone, okay, right, defensive pattern alpha, and disappear to all different corners of the unknown galaxy,
which is what they kind of did in, was it Empire? When they escaped the Hoth base, didn't they all go off in different directions?
We'll all meet up back
at a rendezvous point.
But no, we will continue to go as a big clump of ships. At slightly quicker than they can go, but that was rubbish. Why did they not send TIE fighters and so forth out in front of the fleet of the rebels and attack them at the front where the shields weren't
armed? Yeah,
protected.
Because again, their arrogance that they would just catch up with them, and there's no need to sacrifice more TIE fighters, because if you launch the fighters, they go out, they'll launch X-wings, and you'll have a nice little space battle out the front. Why needlessly sacrifice your people when you can just wait?
Yeah. So so far so bad. Why was Finn in some storage cupboard in his life support? Do they not actually have a hospital? Actually, yes.
What?
They had an entire hospital frigate, didn't they?
They had a medical frigate, yeah.
Frigate. Why was Finn not on the medical frigate? Why was he in some tiny little forgotten storage room that nobody seemed to be with him?
But so was he?
Well, when he woke up, he's wandering around the ship in his saline sack that's pouring water for comedy value.
So your biggest problem really is the tone of it, isn't it?
It's far too much.
By the sound of it, it's the tone that it's a bit too comical.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems as if it's been written by people who saw the original films and saw the prequels and went, wouldn't it be funny if? You're like, well, okay, maybe do that once or twice, but not do the entire tone of the film in that way. perhaps my points can stop there, but the fact that the build-up of A Force Awakens is absolutely shattered by Luke sort of grabbing hold of the lightsaber, going, and throwing it over his shoulder.
You want to say that again?
You know that the build-up of A Force Awakens was at the very end, where Rey holds out the lightsaber for Luke.
Yeah, and then he takes in
he just takes
this
it,
one. He
throws it
sort
over
of
his
takes it
shoulder.
and throws it over the edge.
To rapturous laughter and it's, oh, isn't that funny? It's like, well, that was kind of the crescendo of the last film.
Yeah,
I kind of get that they're trying to make Luke into the Yoda-esque crazy old man sort of, but too much. I liked the comedy of the idea of the lightsaber landing just behind him and the two little pogs, what are they called? Porgs, playing with the lightsaber.
yeah.
And one of them looking down the end of it while the other one's jumping up and down near
Down.
the switch. And you're like, oh. I just wanted off camera for that to suddenly go zing.
Yeah,
That I thought was funny. That kind of humor with Chewbacca and the Porgs and some of the other characters around the island, that was okay because it wasn't the main story.
it wasn't what.
It wasn't the main story.
Yeah,
You have comedy to the side of the story. You don't have comedy being the main story. These are Star Wars, not Star Guffaws.
Yeah. So yeah, it is quite a lot of a tonal issue with you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of the scenes were written for a laugh as opposed to the little side laughs, like you got R2 and that in the prequels where he sprays the oil and all the stormtroopers fall over and that. Yes, they're funny little moments, but they're not integral to the plot. Poe Dameron's sitting in front of a huge Death Star playing with the oh, can you hear me? Are you really there? Are you there? That's sort of out of place, isn't it? Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
and that's kind of what stopped it from feeling Star Warsy to me.
right.
Humor aside, Snoke.
Sorry, Snoke.
So where's he from?
Don't know. Probably never will. Doesn't bother me.
The fact that he has force skills beyond what the Emperor ever had.
Yeah.
I would have thought that we'd have known about him previously.
Before.
Yeah.
But you see, if you forget that the prequel trilogies ever existed,
then I wouldn't be watching this rubbish. Oh, the prequel one. Sorry, the prequel one. Yeah.
Forget the prequels ever happened.
Yep.
And through the original trilogy, you've got no idea of the backstory, really, of Palpatine. In Star Wars, he's not even in it. He's just mentioned the Emperor has dissolved the Senate, and now this battle station is the ultimate power in the galaxy. In Empire, you only see him as a hologram giving information to Darth Vader. It's not until you get to Jedi that you actually see him in the flesh, and he's still just the Emperor. There's no story of him being Senator Palpatine. His backstory isn't really explained in that, and nobody was really bothered about that. And then obviously they did the prequel trilogy and you get his backstory, but they're doing the same thing with Snoke. You don't know where he comes from. He is just the the supreme leader, but we don't know where he comes from or anything like that. So that really didn't bother me, because it was more or less a callback to how they treated Palpatine in the first trilogy.
But
is it because we've been spoilt with a backstory for every single minor character ever that we think, well, where's he come from?
Well,
I can see the argument if he's that powerful, and he does clearly look fairly old. Why was he not around or involved in any of the other stories? Clearly he's not, because they're not thought of him from a filmmaking point of view. From a universe world building point of view, where was he? Who is he? Where's he come from? Has he only recently become powerful in the Force within the last few years after Palpatine's died? If he was around at the time of Palpatine, where the hell was he? What was his relationship with the Empire or Palpatine? I can sort of see that, but it certainly didn't bother me, or I don't feel the need to know any more about him.
I think that certainly in the extended universe, there's this concept, and I'm going to get really nerdy here, but let's hope there's only going to be nerds that are listening. In the extended universe, there's this concept of the Palpatine had been looking for the source of the dark side in the same way that Luke had been looking for the source of the Force from the Jedi's perspective. And in preparation for should anything go wrong, the Palpatine had created these sentinels that basically had hollow projections within them, so that his face would give the instructions to his predecessors as to what to do. I would have liked to have
isn't
seen
that what those Praetorian Guard things, that the guard thing was on the...
No.
Didn't that happen?
Nope. But I would have liked to have seen that to sort of explain how Snoke. I keep wanting to call him Snape and Snope and Snoop, and to kind of explain how Snoke was carrying things on, but there wasn't that tie. We've kind of got a tie of what's gone on with all the Jedi, and we don't really have a clue much about the First Order and about what has kept the dark side alive. We hear about the Knights of Ren. I assume that the Knights of Ren were Force sensitive in some way. Are they?
Well, that's explained, isn't it?
Force? What, the Knights of Ren?
That's explained in the film.
Go on.
The Knights of Ren are the surviving Jedi that joined Kylo when he took down Luke's academy. That was explained in the film.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that was the Knights of Ren. Okay.
Yeah. When
so it was
Kylo had the uprising. Yeah, those Jedi that decided to join Kylo became the Knights of Ren.
Okay.
Now, where the hell they are now is an entirely different conversation, because it's never explained.
Yep. That's another.
They've just kind of disappeared.
Yep. But yeah, and we kind of get an echo of when the Emperor was so sure of Vader that he didn't see the fact that Vader was about to grab him and throw him over the safety rail. We get that with Snoke. But then Snoke has already sort of said to us how useless he thinks Kylo is, and he's already twisted.
So he thinks who is?
Kylo,
right? Yeah.
So and he's proved that by twisting the way that Kylo thinks and using Kylo rather than trusting in him.
Which he is doing. He wants it to get Rey or Luke, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He's just
Kylo's a means to an end.
Exactly. And he's able to manipulate him. He's able to read him like a book. Oh, unless, of course, Kylo suddenly has the guile to be able to outthink Snoke and turn the lightsaber on that's sat next to him.
Yeah. Do you know, the strange thing is, I've got absolutely no defenses for many of these arguments. I really haven't. But when I read a film critic's review of a film, and they go into nitty gritty details of, this shouldn't happen, that shouldn't happen, and why did they make this decision, whatever. I tend to not pay too much attention, because the way I know whether it's a good film or not, or whether I enjoyed the film, is literally walking out of the cinema. Do I think I enjoyed that? Couldn't necessarily tell you why I enjoyed it, but
Yeah.
yes, I did. And I didn't walk out of that cinema feeling, oh, well, I've just watched a piece of crap. I walked out feeling that was a really good film. However, I do tend to agree with almost everything you've said.
So I walked out of Rogue One thinking that was fantastic. That was a brilliant film. Loved it. Absolutely.
And Rogue One is
Bang
the
on.
best one out of the new three so far. Easily.
I would almost say that Rogue One was the best one out of all of them. And that had plenty of humor in it, mainly around K2SO. But
it was done in the right places.
Yes.
It was, yeah, it done.
You didn't. The main characters were focused on the main task at hand. The rebellion, if anything, was quite nitty gritty, and the kind of point of it was they were showing you how the rebellion were close to losing the upper hand, you know, the moral high ground, because they were doing some things that were kind of wrong, really, to beat the bad guys. It's like, what's going on here?
They were terrorists.
Yeah, pretty much, and I thought that worked a lot better. Giving every character a funny line is like, yeah, no, enough, stop it.
So how did you feel about how they treated Luke?
I liked the idea. I thought it was poorly executed.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like flashbacks.
Right.
The flashbacks
liked those.
Oh no, the flashbacks that went back to Kylo Ren in his tent, and you see it from Kylo's perspective, and then you see it from Luke's perspective, and then you hear the truth, and it's like, yeah, we've seen that flashback 3 times.
But each one was slightly different from their perspective, which I thought was really clever. I liked it because you got to see, to use a well-known phrase, you got to see it from a certain point of view.
I can't believe you just said
that. Yeah, of course I did. But you did, you know. But I mean, the way it was shot when you're seeing it from Kylo's point of view, Luke looked really evil. And he looked filled with rage. And then when you see it from Luke's point of view, you could see the doubt in his mind. And you know, I thought that was really, really well done, because it showed that was a pivotal point that sent Kylo down the path he went and sent Luke down the path he went. And I thought that was brilliant and really well done.
I liked the premise. I liked the idea. I didn't like the way that they just did it with the flashbacks. Luke not being the shining white knight and to save the day. I thought that was a good choice.
Say that again. You broke up again. Sorry, mate.
Luke not being the one to save the day, you know, that stepped in and just fixed it all with the Force. That was brilliant. That I liked that. I agreed with that. But it was just that particular instance. I didn't like the use of flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how that Luke had spent the last 30 years, and he's basically, since his failure with his Jedi training, that he cut himself off from the Force, which is why nobody could find him.
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
There's a couple of new Force capabilities that we've never seen before.
Well, the projection, how he managed to.
Well, the projection for one, and the ability for people to see each other, but not through their own choice. So Snoke being able to connect Kylo and Ren with Kylo and Rey
Ray.
without either of them doing it themselves. That's one new power we've never seen before.
And again, is that down to their inability to control the Force? That it's sort of bleeding out of them rather than it being a conscious thing? Yeah, is that just because everything is all connected within the Force, that they are connected and they're unable to block the link?
Don't know.
Because they haven't learned the control yet. Because obviously Rey's not been trained at all, and Luke turns out isn't a very good trainer.
Yeah, and the Luke projecting himself was it just me, or was that not blatantly flipping obvious? Perhaps that the clues they dropped weren't subtle enough.
I twigged it when he raised his lightsaber.
I twigged it when
That's the first point, because it's his blue lightsaber, which has literally just been destroyed.
Yeah, but
and as soon as that was up, it's like, well, that's not really him, is it?
When he appears to Leia, he's got a full brown beard. He doesn't have a shred of grey on him.
I never spotted that.
Okay, so first of all, he appears to Leia similar sort of age to what he was in the tent when he was about to slaughter Kylo Ren. So
Yeah.
he's not got any grey in his beard. He's got much shorter kempt hair.
Which
Second
would have
of
been
all,
the last time Leia saw him.
Leia saw him, yeah.
Yeah.
Second of all was the wink to 3PO, because 3PO was probably going, there's no fucking life signs. And what's going on here? But I can see him, but he's not really here. So there's the link,
Yeah.
the wink there. The fact that
Yeah,
they
no,
opened,
I didn't spot that at all.
the fact that they opened up the all weapons and completely, managed to scratch the surface, because it didn't seem to dig any holes or anything. It just like scratched the surface of the planet. And then he walked out from there. It's like, yeah, that's some kind of a hologram or projector or something, because why would Kylo then go outside? All right, well, if you can't do it, I'm going to hit him with a lightsaber.
I'll do it myself. Yeah.
If that was Luke Skywalker, then he has clearly reached such a level in the Force that you're not going to do anything. Especially since Rey managed to beat you with a lightsaber not that long ago, having had no training. Why would you step out there and go against him?
Against him, yeah.
And yeah, it was kind of obvious that it wasn't him. I did like the fact that it looked like it was going to be a Ben standoff, where he was going to stand there and say, look, if you strike me down, I shall come more powerful than you can possibly imagine. And he stood there, turned off his lightsaber, and bugger. But yeah, that was. Yeah.
So one of the big spoilers is that Luke then dies.
He becomes at one with the Force. Yes.
Yes.
Which.
Go on.
Yeah, that's okay. Talking about deaths, there's one that we skipped over and came back to and didn't go.
I will come back to that. Don't you worry. I know what you're talking about. We'll come back to that, because I have enough problems with that as well.
Seriously.
But no, Luke joining the Force. I like that.
Yeah.
I think my take on it is because a couple of people that I spoke to, they can't decide whether was it the exertion of projecting that hologram that it sort of killed him, or was it a voluntary thing? I'm going with it was voluntary, and I'm going with he's realized that Snoke, I don't suppose he knows at this point that Snoke's dead, and his thoughts were that the First Order is their main aim, as it was in The Force Awakens, is to find Skywalker. So he doesn't want to rejoin the galaxy, if you like. He wants to be out of it all. So he's he's done what he needed to do to ensure the rebellion survives,
He's
and has decided to remove himself from the equation. So he's just joined the Force.
Yeah, I
I
would say
suspect he will come back as a Force ghost and train Rey in the next one.
I suspect it was a mixture of the two, in that he doesn't want any more to do with any of this. Therefore, he uses the last of his energy to do the force projection, to stall them, to let the others go, and then
Sort of gives it up into the
yeah.
which I like. I mean, it does mean that now, after obviously Carrie Fisher died last year, that's it. That's the original trilogy guys pretty much out of the story now, which I think is what the end result of all of these films was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That at the end of this trilogy, that's it. We're done with the Skywalker clan, and we're going to move on to other stories.
Yeah, which is why Rey isn't a Skywalker.
Well, according to Kylo Ren, yes, she is a nobody. Her parents were junk traders and that, but is that true? You've got no verification. It's just the word of Kylo Ren, isn't it? I looked into your mind, and I saw that yes, you are nobody. Now, was he just trying to undermine her, or is that true? I really hope it's true.
Yeah.
But it might not necessarily be the case.
Yeah, I would have thought that if she was a Skywalker, then Luke would have said something to her before choosing to move on.
Sorry, say that again.
I would have thought that Luke would have said something to her before choosing to move on if Rey was a Skywalker.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I mean, I suspect it is true, but it needn't necessarily be so. But I really do hope it is. I like the idea of her just being powerful with the Force without being tied into the virgin birth and all of that. You know,
we know that's possible because that's what happened in the Old Republic, and they went out looking for Force sensitive people. They didn't breed them.
Well, I mean, you look at the Oriental guy in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Donnie Yen's the actor. I can't remember the character's name, but yeah, he was just a Force sensitive, wasn't he? He wasn't a Jedi.
Yep.
So even ignoring the extended universe stuff, which is no longer canon, it's been brought canon into this new universe, new Star Wars world because of him.
Well,
so
not even that. The prequels, they cover the idea of finding Force
the Jedis,
So that was the practice they used to bring Jedis into the Order, and they would find Force sensitive children, bring them in,
and then start training
and train them up. But it's
So I do hope that does actually remain to be the truth.
The thing we've got to remember is there is. I don't believe that there is an outline of where this is going.
Ultimately, no, I missed that. Say that again.
Sorry. I don't believe that there is an outline as to where this is going, ultimately.
What, within Disney? They don't know where they're going to go yet.
They're probably a good way into writing the third film. But I doubt whether the films were written with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
So they're literally making it up as they go along, you think?
Pretty much. And then they can go by how well each film is. They can go by how well each film is accepted as to whether they how they shape
which parts of the story worked, which parts did people like, and we'll take it down that path and drop the bits that people didn't like. It's quite possible.
We do see how a director gets changed in the middle of the film because of test screenings or because cast issues just disagree. And what role did Carrie Fisher have in the last film? In the one that's coming? What role did General Leia have in that film?
Yeah. Obviously,
because obviously that's changed massively.
yeah. I mean, coming back to that, we'll talk about it now.
Yeah.
I honestly thought when the spaceship frigate, whatever it was that she was on, got destroyed and she gets blown out into space, I honestly thought, oh, so that's how they're going to write her out.
Yep.
And then we get the absolutely ridiculous and
Mary
stupid
Poppins. Yeah.
Princess Leia finally decides to work out how to use the Force and manage to pull herself back into the ship and survive. And that was my biggest really point of the film.
Yep. Nope.
I thought it was absolutely stupid.
Yep. Did not like that at all.
No, me either. I've got absolutely no defense for that whatsoever, and I'm in complete agreement with you that it was unnecessary, useless, and pathetic.
Yep. And I'm just going to edit it so that we start this saying, well, I like the film, and then you say, I thought it was unnecessarily
useless and pathetic. But yeah, yeah, I didn't enjoy that at all. I thought it was yeah, just stupid. She showed no Force sensitivity at all, other than the odd communication with Luke in Empire.
Yep.
But I think that was at Luke's instigation, not hers, wasn't it?
Well, that was yeah, and she was able to sense in Jedi that Luke wasn't.
Luke had made it off the Death Star before he died, before it got blown up. Yet, but other than that,
but again, we don't know what's happened in all the years between Jedi and whether.
No, but if she had Force abilities, she probably would have found reasons and ways of using them in the last film.
Yeah.
To suddenly just have it because she's close to death, and to tease the death of Princess Leia, and then take that away and oh no, she's fine, she's used the Force, don't worry about it. I thought that was a cheap shot. I really did, especially as we knew that Carrie Fisher herself is dead.
Yeah.
And you sat there and you think, oh, that's really quite a cool way of them writing her out. And then they bring her back. It's like, well, so what are you going to do now? Because she's made it through the whole film, so they've now got to find an excuse of why she's not in the next one. Is it going to be in the opening crawl that the rebel base got hit and Princess Leia died or whatever? They could have.
Yeah, the freezing in space would have been quite an homage and a tear in the eye, and but a footnote in the crawler for the next film isn't really.
Yeah, it just seems unjust and unfair to Carrie Fisher. Actually, having her die a death on screen, a heroic death or a sacrificial death or something, could she not have been the one that hyperspaced the ship through the Star Destroyer to save them at the end? That would have been a good ending for her. There were so many ways they could have done it rather than actually having her survive and then be written out. I'm sure they're going to do it through the opening crawl, because I can't see any other way of doing it, or a discussion in the first few scenes of, oh, if only General Organa was here or whatever. They're going to have to do it as an off-screen death, which I don't think is fair to her.
Yep, totally agree with that. Yes.
Porgs.
I like Porgs.
Do you like the Porgs?
I do.
I do.
I like the Porgs. The Porgs were the comedy element that the film needed.
They achieved what the Ewoks wish they could have done, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I thought the noises were good. I thought them watching Chewie when he was eating one of them roasted, I thought that was just spot on.
Hilarious.
And I said the bit that had me laughing at the very beginning was the one jumping up and down the lightsaber. I thought that was brilliant. Really clever, really good. Love them. Of course, they scream merchandising.
Yeah. But they weren't overdone either, though, were they? They're sort of there in the background.
Yeah.
But enough to I like them. The way they used them was enough, I think.
Yeah.
If it had turned out that one of them was instrumental into saving the rebellion through some stupid thing that they did, I don't know, like dive bombing a ATST or something like that, rocks and shit. Yeah, no, they did those well. I quite enjoyed those.
And BB-8 is quite clearly stepped in for R2. Quite why they felt the need to do that, I don't know.
Who? Sorry.
BB-8 has stepped in for R2.
Yeah.
And I don't think he needed to, really.
Well, the problem is, I'm quite pleased that he has, because if you've got R2, you have to have 3PO, and I fucking hate 3PO.
He's not quite Jar Jar, but he's getting there, isn't he?
He's getting there. I mean, he was.
I think that Poe could have taken R2 as his astromech droid, while 3PO's left on the ship as an interpreter for General Organa. The separation of the two droids, I think you could have stuck with.
Engineered.
It's not a big deal that they brought BB-8 in, and it's definitely when.
But I kind of like it because, again, you're still not reliant upon the original trilogy casts or characters. BB-8 is Poe Dameron's co-pilot, and you don't change co-pilots through the. If they hadn't have introduced him at all and he'd have been R2, then fine. But as he is Dameron's co-pilot, then keep him.
Yeah, true.
You know, you don't change a co-pilot just because R2's now woke up and he's around again. Oh, we'll have him. Bearing in mind, R2 is a 40-year-old robot, 40-year-old thing, because he was and the rest.
Because he was,
hang on, so 50-60-year-old.
Yeah, because he was owned. He was on the spaceship,
the Royal Cruiser.
That originally picked up Anakin Skywalker from Tatooine.
Yeah.
So,
and these ones are set 30 years after the events of Jedi. So Luke was 18 at the start of Star Wars, A New Hope. So there's 48 years, plus however long that story was. It was about an 8-year story from A New Hope to Jedi. So R2's a 50-year-old droid. If and BB-8 is obviously a newer droid. So take the higher grade software, frankly.
Yeah, true.
R2's a relic. That's like us trying to sort of use a ZX81 when we can use a PC.
But it's okay. Again, he's a comedy element, and the whole thing with sticking all the prongs in the fuses and that, it was like, that's okay. That kind of humor.
It's the sort of thing R2 did. So
exactly. That's fine. But in general, I just didn't really like the
it's a tonal thing with you, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And I thought the humor was overdone in certain parts, and in other parts it worked really well. But overall, I came out of that film thinking that was great.
Yeah, I was trying to think, how did it end? It ended on
pretty much a downer, actually. There's like 40 of the rebels left. They've managed to escape the base and get away, but they're in a pretty sorry shape. But then the First Order's not in a great shape either, because they've just lost their supreme leader. The very reason that Snoke was a supreme leader, his main sort of focus was to find Skywalker, who's now no longer around. So they're basically just the Empire again, aren't they? And they'll take over the systems and one by one, and they'll be back to where they were 40 years ago. So it's very much a downer. It's along the lines of Empire, in that things didn't go well for the good guys, and they're all left a little bit sort of straggling now. They've lost.
The thing was, you don't really get an idea of the scale of the First Order.
No. That's never explained, is it? I mean, are they? Because from They were almost
they
like
were-
the rebellion in the first film, in that you've got the Galactic Senate now, the Republic,
Yep.
whatever it is,
Yep.
and these are the insurgents trying to get rid of them. And then you've got the resistance that are trying to stop them doing it. They're the military wing of the Galactic Republic. But they do seem to have unlimited resources, and seem to be in this a lot more sort of
the upper
far-reaching.
hand. Yeah.
But then again, is it just those ships that were chasing the rebellion ships? Is that all there is?
But you
In
would have
which
thought
case,
that
they're not that big a threat. I don't know.
yeah, how much of the First Order was on the on the Starkiller base?
Starkiller base, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because if that was destroyed and wasn't an impact on the First Order's resources, then they how did they stay hidden?
For
Oh
so
yes,
long, and how come they've not taken over the galaxy already?
yeah, by pure numbers more than anything else. It's you don't get a concept of the size of it.
Yeah,
I think when A
which,
New Hope is what
well,
you
you
throughout.
got a sense, of how big the empire was, because of
I think the
certain
very
little bits of
name and
conversation about the
the Galactic
right,
Senate being
right at the start.
dissolved and
Cushing says he's dissolved the Republic, and now what is it? Local
local
rulers will
governors. Yeah,
governors. That's it. Local governors will take direct control over their systems.
yeah.
So systems being solar systems. So yes, they are a galaxy-wide empire. They are an empire.
Even before the prequels, like you said, in A New Hope, they kind of established the fact that the Empire is all encompassing.
Galactic empire. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. Whereas with
Whereas
the
the First
the
Order,
First Order, you have no clue how big they
yeah.
are.
Now I've read, because there were 3 books that were released just before the Force Awakens.
Force Awakens.
That explains what happens immediately after Jedi, and then leads to the seeds of the First Order.
Right. I've read the first one.
Yeah.
Was it Aftermath?
Yep. And then they go on to explain a little bit more about the fact that the First Order is the dregs of the Empire.
The
And
Empire.
what was left from the Empire when the second Death Star was destroyed, and the Emperor
And there was
played it
lots
with
sort of infighting over the
Yep.
commanders trying to take control of what's
So it
left of
wasn't a
the
particularly
Empire, wasn't there, in the
strong.
first one? Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't a particularly strong start for the First Order.
Yeah.
And so you kind of wonder,
What happened in those 20 years
yeah,
after that aftermath to make them as big as they are, but still not in control?
yeah, because it certainly seems as if the rebellion, made a good, strong government and had peace throughout the galaxies, but somehow managed to let the First Order just grow.
Sort of sneak up on them a bit.
Yeah. The big surprise of this hollowed out Death Star plan, Starkiller base.
How many times are you going to
Really?
make that mistake?
It's no mistake. So, how long have we been recording?
About half an hour, 40 minutes, something like
Is
that.
that all? Oh, okay. I thought it had been longer.
It
Yeah,
might be. I don't know. I wouldn't really check when we started.
there are certainly other things that, I think the thing is, there is far more that bothered me about the film than there was that I liked.
Yeah.
The
And like, yeah, you did, like you say, you came out of it not
thinking,
feeling.
meh. Did that one word review that I gave you on Facebook? Meh. That was how I felt coming out of the cinema.
Yeah.
It
See, I came out feeling
seen,
wow. My one word review would have been wow.
but we've seen better space battles. Without picking the story apart, we've seen better space battles. We've seen better stories. there was nothing new there. The characters, I think, are still fairly weak. The only character that I was interested in from the end of The Force Awakens was killed out in this movie, which was Snoke. I want to know more about Snoke, but he was killed.
I mean, Andy
And
Serkis has hinted that there may be a Snoke movie.
yeah, that's just jingling of wallets, isn't it now?
Sorry?
That's just jingling of wallets. That's just shaking the tree for more money.
Yeah.
I don't think that Snoke warrants his own spin-off movie, but it would have been nice to have known more about him.
There's yes, he's been cut in half, but other characters have come back from being cut in half. I do believe Darth Maul came back. I've not watched the cartoons,
not in the film. He didn't,
but they're still canon.
They're still canon.
The animated series is still, if it's been on a screen, it's canon.
Yeah.
So
I didn't like the fact that he got bought. Again, Darth Maul.
He was a well-wasted character.
Yeah, Darth Maul. I absolutely loved him as a character, and the fact.
I mean,
they
brought
fresh news in. Another friend of mine has just been and seen the film, and apparently it got a standing ovation and a round of applause at the end. It's like, what film are these people seeing?
A different one to you. You are in a minority. You are in a minority. I've seen the Imager has sort of there's a fair few people didn't like it on there, and a lot of the fans didn't. But then again, people are more likely to post stuff about things that they're unhappy with than things that they are happy with. So I have seen a few tweets and stuff of people not liking it, and although one person was stupid enough to write, "Please let George Lucas come back to show them how it should be done," it's like, really? Did you watch the prequels? Really? Let George write the stories, but let somebody else make the films, because that tends to work a lot better.
Interestingly, just before we started recording the first time round, I was watching a YouTube video that do a search for it. You'll probably find it quite easily. How edits saved Star Wars.
Yeah, it was his wife, basically.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
The original Star Wars, he filmed and sort of edited it together, showed it to a few of his directory friends, which Spielberg was one, and they all said it's the worst film they've ever seen.
Yep.
And then his wife came along and sort of re-edited it, and she had a hell of a lot to do with its success, but she's been basically written out of the history of Star Wars. Once she got divorced from George Lucas, he tried to basically really play down her part in it.
Yeah, but have you actually seen that same documentary that I was talking about there? When there were certain key scenes.
No.
There were certain key scenes that were cut together in one way that didn't quite make sense, but without changing the actual content of the scenes and just showing them in a slightly different order, it changed the pace, it improved, it made more sense. The way it was that George Lucas originally showed it, pretty much as happened with The Last Jedi. It starts with the space battle, great, going well. It then cuts to this unknown kid in a floppy hat who's on some desert, and you're like, what? Who the hell is this kid, and why aren't we watching this awesome space battle that we were watching 5 minutes ago? And why is he talking to his friends? And too much information. We were being they were on the surface telling us the story of the Empire and how I don't want to be the evil Empire, blah, blah, blah. Whereas, meanwhile, up in space, we could have been watching it. And so they cut all that stuff out and stayed.
Show, don't tell, yeah.
Yeah, they stayed with the Tantive being captured longer and it made more sense when in the original cut, the first time that the Force is mentioned is when Vader is in the meeting room, and he's one of the generals says that your devotion to that ancient religion hasn't
Yeah.
given you the foresight to bring up the
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways
That's it.
and all of that. Yeah.
Don't underestimate the power of the Force. That's
Yeah.
the first time, and you're like, what the hell's the Force? After the cut, what they actually had was the first time you're introduced to the Force is when Obi-Wan is explaining how the Force binds us and ties us together and stuff. And there's nothing to do with midichlorians. And then the next scene is when Vader is explaining nothing compares to the dark side of the Force. And it then shows that not only is the Force all powerful, but there is this dark and light side.
Yeah.
And that, without changing the actual contents of those two scenes, simply swapping them over, it changed the feel and
It's
the
changed
understanding of the
completely.
whole thing. It was quite interesting to see that.
You'll have to send me a link to it.
Have a look on YouTube. Just it edits saved Star Wars, and that's really good. And
I'll have a look at that.
I think that the story of The Last Jedi.
You what?
No, I was going to say the story of The Last Jedi could be, but no, the story of The Last Jedi, I just don't. It doesn't hold anything.
Yeah.
The story of The Last Jedi was the story of poor Admiral Akbar is supposedly this fantastic tactician. So in which case, why did he not just scatter the rebellion to the wind? Because the Empire couldn't have tracked them all.
Yeah.
And that would have, and then they could have grouped together again later to live another day. But trying to outrun slowly the ships just
You've gone again there, mate.
all.
To outrun slowly what?
To slowly outrun the First Order, just that wasn't a tactic at all. It was, didn't like it.
No.
Did not enjoy that film.
No. Hey, what a shame.
I think
I really did.
Yeah, I would like to watch it again for some of the set pieces and for some of the scenes.
Yeah.
But no, as a film, it just didn't hold together for me.
It didn't hold it for you, no. Well, I think as you're beginning to break up more and more, I think this is probably a good as place as any as to call it quits for the night.
Yes, okay, and hopefully we'll get to record another show before the next film.
The next time a Star Wars film comes out, or it's in 12 months' time, we'll do episode 147.
I'm really not sure who the audience for this film would have been, because people who have not watched the film wouldn't care, and those who have watched the film, or perhaps they'll just
probably still don't care.
You're wrong.
Yeah, but there you go. All right, then, matey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
I'll see you soon. Bye.
I hear